Keanu Reeves walks into a luxurious salon, his rugged appearance a stark contrast to the opulence around him. After months of total immersion in a transformative role, he's unshaven, his hair wild and untamed. The moment he enters, whispers begin to ripple through the room, judgment, disdain, and mockery follow his every step. But what the elite clientele and salon staff fail to realize is that the man they so easily dismiss is about to show them a lesson they'll never forget. What happens next? Prepare to be stunned. Before we dive deeper into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We want to connect with you better. For months, Keanu Reeves completely dedicated himself to a role that went beyond just acting. It challenged his talent, his identity, and his very essence. The character was complex, tormented, and demanded an extreme physical transformation. His thick beard, long messy hair, and clothes that screamed neglect were all a result of his commitment to living the role, not just performing it. During filming, Keanu disappeared from the public eye, fully immersing himself in the character. His appearance, once a source of pride, became a reflection of the character's struggle. His co-stars noticed, "Keanu, you're unrecognizable. It's like the character has taken over." But for Keanu, this wasn't a new approach. Authenticity always came before vanity. Finally, after wrapping up the film, Keanu felt a mix of relief and nostalgia. He had given everything to the role, but now it was time to leave it behind and reclaim his true self. A castmate suggested a visit to a renowned salon known for its elite clientele and impeccable service. "You've got to check out the Atelier. It's the best in the city. They'll take care of you like no one else," they said. Keanu, skeptical but intrigued, decided to give it a shot. A few days later, Keanu walked into the Atelier in his simple clothes, worn jeans, a black t-shirt, and scuffed boots. His beard was untamed, his hair long and wild. The moment he stepped inside, he could feel the stares. But he didn't care. He was just a man looking for a haircut. As he approached the reception desk, the impeccably dressed receptionist raised an eyebrow, scanning him with a mix of surprise and doubt. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. Keanu, unbothered, simply replied, "I'd like a haircut and a beard treatment." There was a brief pause. She hesitated, her expression showing doubt about whether he was the right kind of client for this salon, but then, still forcing a smile, she said, "Of course. Please wait here." Keanu took a seat, unaware that his simple appearance would be met with disdain. What he didn't realize was that the role he had so fully embraced had now made him the object of scorn in this world of luxury and perfection. The Atelier wasn't just any salon. It was a temple of extravagance, located on one of Beverly Hills' most exclusive streets. The moment you entered, the sweet scent of imported candles filled the air, and you were surrounded by crystal chandeliers sparkling above. Italian marble lined the walls, and gold-framed mirrors adorned each styling station. In the back, chilled champagne and fine hors d'oeuvres awaited those who whispered among themselves in hushed tones. The clientele consisted of the Hollywood elite, actors, directors, millionaires. Conversations floated like delicate music, filled with talk of private islands, yachts, and exclusive luxury products that cost a fortune. And into this world of perfection walked Keanu, a man out of place. His scruffy appearance clashed with the immaculately dressed patrons. Whispers erupted almost immediately, some tried to be discreet, others weren't shy at all. A well-coiffed client whispered, "Who is he? He looks like he wandered in by mistake." But Keanu wasn't fazed. He remained calm and collected as he walked toward the receptionist. Her polite smile barely concealed her doubt as she asked, "May I help you?" And with that, Keanu was about to show them all that appearances can be deceiving. What happens next will leave you speechless. Maintaining his serene demeanor, Keanu replied calmly, "I'd like a haircut and a beard treatment." The words hung in the air for a moment, and an uncomfortable silence followed. The receptionist seemed unsure of what to do, as though weighing whether this man really belonged in the salon. Finally, she spoke in a neutral, almost mechanical tone, "Of course. I'll call one of our professionals. Please, wait here." Keanu thanked her politely and took a seat, unaware that judgmental stares from both staff and clients would follow him like a shadow. What he didn't know was that his simplicity and authenticity were about to be put to the ultimate test. As he waited, the whispers grew louder around him. For the regular patrons of the atelier, Keanu was no longer just an outsider, he was a clear symbol of someone who simply didn't belong. The receptionist returned after a brief consultation with the staff, her smile now strained, her tone polished but betraying an underlying impatience. "Our services are exclusive and, let's say, highly personalized," she said, stressing the last part, as if testing him. "I should mention, our prices start in the 4-digit range." Keanu remained unflappable. "That won't be a problem," he replied without hesitation. The receptionist blinked in surprise at his calm response, but the faint furrow of her brow showed her lingering doubt. She gestured for Keanu to follow her, and as he moved through the salon, it felt as if the room paused, everyone's eyes locked on him. Some were openly curious, others filled with disdain. "Does he really think he can afford anything here?" one woman whispered to her friend, who barely stifled a giggle. "Maybe he just walked in to say he's been here. I bet he'll leave as soon as he hears the prices," a man near the champagne station murmured. As they reached the styling station, Keanu was assigned to Marcus, a slender, impeccably dressed man who gave Keanu a once-over before turning to the receptionist and whispering loud enough to be overheard, "Are you sure he's in the right place? We don't do budget cuts here." The receptionist merely shrugged, clearly sharing the same doubt, and Marcus sighed dramatically before approaching Keanu, adjusting his shirt collar as though preparing for an unpleasant task. "Well, let's get started," he said with a fake smile. "I hope you came prepared to invest in your appearance. Our services are, shall we say, more sophisticated than usual." Keanu simply smiled politely and took a seat in the chair. As Marcus began assessing his hair, he couldn't resist another jab, dripping with irony. "We're going to need a full makeover here. I just hope you brought the right credit card." A nearby staff member arranging products let out a quiet chuckle. "Maybe he thinks he can put it all on a payment plan," they joked, loud enough for the group to hear. Laughter followed, but Keanu remained silent, his calmness only intensifying their curiosity. Meanwhile, a client at a nearby station leaned toward her stylist, whispering, "Do you think he can actually afford all this? He looks so ordinary." The stylist responded with a sly smile. "Well, he better. This isn't a charity." As Keanu's chair turned and he faced the mirror, Marcus couldn't resist one more comment. "This is going to take a lot of work. Maybe we should start with a consultation before doing anything. I wouldn't want to waste time if you can't afford it." The entire salon seemed to hold its breath, eagerly awaiting a reaction from Keanu. But he remained unfazed, silent, and composed. His calm demeanor was a stark contrast to the increasingly tense atmosphere around him. The staff exchanged glances, their whispers growing bolder, but Keanu stayed serene as if oblivious to the situation. Marcus, now irritated, began working with careless, rough movements, showing little regard for providing quality service. He tugged at Keanu's hair harder than necessary, muttering, "This is going to take a lot of work. Looks like no one's touched this hair in months." Another staff member, walking by, stopped to observe and with an ironic smile added, "Maybe we should call someone who specializes in emergency cuts. He needs more than a salon treatment." Laughter echoed from the staff, but still, Keanu didn't flinch, remaining poised and calm. Marcus exchanged a glance with another stylist nearby, who smirked slightly. Then, with exaggerated humor, Marcus said, "I don't even know where to start. Maybe we'll need an extra treatment just to disinfect this." The room was electric with anticipation, everyone watching for the moment when Keanu would finally react. Would he leave? Would he defend himself? But Keanu remained unshaken, a living embodiment of composure and humility amidst the judgment. And little did they know, they were about to learn just how wrong they were about him. The other stylist couldn't help but chuckle softly, the sound dripping with condescension. "I just hope he knows we're dealing with premium services here. This isn't your average salon." Keanu, however, heard every word. But he didn't flinch. His gaze stayed fixed on his own reflection in the mirror, his expression as composed as ever. He didn't need to react, and he certainly wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing how their words affected him. He let the silence speak volumes instead, like a subtle challenge to the assumptions around him. As the haircut continued at a glacial pace, Marcus, the stylist, seemed to relish the discomfort he was creating. He paused deliberately, his voice oozing with feigned courtesy. Before we continue, it might be worth mentioning that all services here must be paid in full at the end. Our standards are quite elevated. Keanu's gaze remained steady, unwavering, locked with Marcus's eyes through the mirror. His response was quiet but firm. Understood. How much does the full service cost? Marcus blinked, caught off guard. He had been expecting hesitation, maybe even some signs of uncertainty. But instead, Keanu's calm, direct manner threw him off balance. There was no challenge, no defensiveness, just an unsettling confidence. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the next move in this unfolding drama. A few clients exchanged glances, and the air grew thick with anticipation. But Keanu? He remained untouched, a rock in the midst of the storm. His tranquil composure, in fact, seemed to unsettle everyone even more. The discomfort only seemed to grow in the space around him. The atmosphere, once filled with polite murmurs and the soft hum of laughter, began to shift. It became taut with tension, as if the salon itself could feel the clash between Keanu's simplicity and the world of elitism that surrounded him. The scene that was unfolding felt almost surreal, a strange and uncomfortable spectacle. Some patrons, sensing the growing unease, chose to stay out of it entirely, their attention shifting to their own affairs. An older woman, sitting nearby, glanced over at Marcus's mocking comments and muttered to herself, "This doesn't seem right, but it's none of my business." Others, though, leaned in ever so slightly, eyes flicking toward the oddity at the center of it all, Keanu's unassuming presence in a world that was clearly not built for people like him. To them, this was an event worth witnessing. It was the kind of moment that could only happen in a place like the Atelier, where outsiders were treated as a curiosity or a nuisance. Still, Marcus wasn't finished. He clearly wanted to provoke a reaction, and so he did. Turning to Keanu once again, he asked, "May I ask, sir, before we go any further, are you prepared for the final cost? I wouldn't want you to be surprised when we're done." Keanu met his gaze through the mirror, his calm and firm voice unwavering. "As I've said, that won't be a problem. Please continue." This time, Marcus was speechless for a moment. The entire salon, which had been buzzing with low-key judgment, fell silent. Keanu's unwavering assurance had brought a temporary hush to the room. It wasn't the response Marcus had hoped for, and it certainly wasn't the discomfort he'd expected to see. He was momentarily caught off guard, but his instincts kicked in quickly. "Well," he said with a forced grin, trying to regain control, "I hope that's true, because here, excellence comes at a price, and it's not cheap." Before Marcus could add anything more, the doors of the salon burst open with a force that reverberated through the room. Every head turned, and the sound of heavy footsteps rang through the space. The figure that entered was imposing, an aura of authority radiating from him. It was the manager. His serious expression and the sharpness of his movements signaled that something important was unfolding. The atmosphere, which had been filled with tension just moments before, now descended into complete silence. Everyone in the room knew the manager's presence was never casual. When he arrived, it meant something was about to change. Keanu, still seated and calm, watched the manager's reflection in the mirror, his intuition telling him that the time to reveal his true identity was nearing. He was ready for the moment, though he didn't know yet how it would unfold. The manager entered the salon with quiet authority, his impeccably tailored suit and flawless presence drawing the attention of every person in the room. He moved with purpose, scanning the salon, taking in the strange energy that had settled in the air. His eyes landed on the unusual figure sitting in the chair, the one who had caused such a stir. Keanu's unkempt appearance, the casual attire, and the stillness in his demeanor immediately stood out, and the manager's brow furrowed slightly. A flicker of recognition passed over his face, but it was so fleeting it could have been mistaken for doubt. "It can't be," he murmured to himself, then quickened his pace toward Keanu's chair. As he reached Keanu, his demeanor shifted almost imperceptibly from curiosity to something more profound, respect. The manager's tone was filled with genuine reverence when he finally spoke. "Mr. Reeves, it's an honor to have you here." The entire salon froze. Some clients shifted nervously, while others stared at Keanu in disbelief. The staff, especially Marcus, turned ghostly pale. Shock was written all over their faces. It was as though the entire world had just tilted on its axis. The manager continued, his voice now full of deference. "I apologize for not recognizing you immediately, and for anything that may have occurred while I was away. This salon should offer nothing less than excellence for someone of your caliber." Keanu met his gaze in the mirror, his expression steady but unmistakably firm. With the faintest of smiles, he replied, "Thank you. But I think the atmosphere here has been quite revealing." The manager's frown deepened, though he remained composed. He sensed something was wrong, though the specifics eluded him. His attention shifted toward Marcus, whose face had gone pale. The staff, now realizing they had crossed the line, stood frozen, avoiding the manager's piercing gaze at all costs. The manager's posture straightened, his authority undeniable as he turned to Marcus. "Marcus," he said, his voice now tinged with command, "I trust you've treated this client with the level of professionalism this salon is known for," demanded a shift in the atmosphere. Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. The weight of the situation was too heavy, and he knew any attempt to explain himself would be futile. The manager caught the silence, glancing around at the other staff members. Their guilty expressions confirmed his suspicions. He turned back to Keanu, now fully aware of the gravity of the moment. "Please allow me to assure you," the manager began, his voice measured but sincere, "that from this moment forward, your experience here will be flawless. And once again, I sincerely apologize for any inappropriate behavior on behalf of my team." Keanu maintained his calm tone, unshaken. "There's no need to apologize directly to me," he replied, his voice steady and firm. "I think they need to understand something bigger." The manager, realizing the weight of Keanu's words, stepped back to give him space. Keanu slowly rose from the chair, his gaze sweeping across the room. He met the eyes of everyone present, staff and clients alike. His look was not filled with anger, but with something deeper, wisdom, dignity, and a quiet strength. Taking a deep breath, he broke the silence with a voice that carried through the room, commanding attention. "All of you, staff and clients alike, need to hear this," Keanu said, his voice steady and resolute. The entire salon seemed to hold its breath, each person hanging on the edge of his words. The room had become still, and for the first time, all eyes were on Keanu, waiting for the next revelation. Keanu's posture was calm but firm, standing tall beside the chair as he carefully measured his words. There was no anger, only a deep conviction in the way he spoke. His tranquility, in contrast to the tense atmosphere, only heightened the impact of his message. He looked around at everyone in the room, staff, clients, and the people who had been judging him. There was no judgment in his eyes, only clarity. People should not be judged by their appearance, clothing, or anything superficial, Keanu began, his voice steady yet calm. "I've been sitting here for quite some time, observing how you treat those who, in your eyes, don't fit in." He paused, letting his words sink in, and some people couldn't help but avert their gaze, feeling ashamed of their actions. Others sat frozen, unable to react. Keanu continued, his words hitting deeper with every sentence. "It's easy to be polite and courteous to those you believe have money or status, but the true test of character is how you treat those who you think have nothing to offer." He turned to the staff, addressing them directly, his voice unyielding. "I came in here expecting nothing more than a haircut, something anyone, no matter who they are, should be able to do without being made to feel like they don't belong." He let that sink in, and for a moment, the room was utterly still. What I found was judgmental looks, unnecessary comments, and an atmosphere that exuded exclusion. Keanu's words echoed throughout the salon, and the weight of them landed heavily on everyone in the room. Marcus seemed to shrink in his seat, unable to meet Keanu's eyes. The other staff members lowered their heads, clearly ashamed of their behavior. Even the clients, who had been spectators up until that point, began to shift uneasily in their seats, feeling the burden of their own actions. An older client, who had earlier whispered a cruel comment, finally spoke, her voice low, almost apologetic. "He's right," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't how we should treat people." Another client, visibly reflecting on her own behavior, nodded. The manager, who had remained silent up until this point, stepped forward. His voice was filled with respect as he addressed Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," he began, his tone sincere, "your words are a powerful reminder to all of us. Thank you for showing us where we failed, and I promise this will not be forgotten." Keanu turned to him, nodding with a faint, understanding smile. "I hope it's not just remembered, but that it inspires real change." With that, Keanu picked up his jacket and began to walk toward the exit. But before he crossed the threshold, he paused. Turning around to face the room one last time, he spoke once more. "Remember, true greatness isn't in what you wear or how you appear," Keanu said, his voice calm but full of purpose. "It's in how you treat others." And with those final words, Keanu left the salon, the door closing softly behind him. The room was left in a heavy, reflective silence, his presence lingering in the air like the echo of his message. For a few moments, no one moved. It was as if the weight of Keanu's words had frozen the entire room in place. The silence, once uncomfortable, now felt thick with introspection. The manager was the first to break the stillness, clearing his throat as he attempted to regain his composure. "Did you hear what he said?" the manager asked, his voice now more serious than ever. "From this moment forward, we're going to make sure something like this never happens again. The atelier has always stood for excellence, but excellence isn't just about luxury, it's about treating every person with the respect they deserve." The staff nodded, some visibly ashamed, others deep in thought about what had just transpired. Marcus, who had been the main culprit, stepped forward. His voice was low, but sincere. "I'm sorry," he said. "I acted wrongly, and now I see how shameful that was. I promise to do better." The manager nodded, but his tone was firm as he emphasized, "It's not just about making promises, Marcus. It's about taking action. And that applies to all of us." The staff, now aware of the responsibility they carried, looked around at one another. Some were still uncomfortable, others in deep thought, but the collective atmosphere had shifted. The message was clear: real change had to start from within. The manager stood there for a moment longer, his eyes scanning the room, and with a final nod, he turned to address the staff one last time. The path forward was clear, and it was up to each of them to follow it. The manager, visibly moved by the events that had unfolded, stood tall and made an announcement to the staff, their heads still lowered in the wake of Keanu's powerful words. From that day forward, the atelier would adopt a new philosophy, one that would leave no room for judgment or exclusion. The policy was clear: all clients would be treated equally, without exception. A sign would be placed at the entrance, a simple but potent message, something that would stand as a reminder to everyone who entered. "Here, everyone is treated like a celebrity." This statement would define the salon's future, a lasting tribute to the transformation that had taken place. And though it was a change born from discomfort, it would become the foundation of a more inclusive, respectful environment. Outside the salon, Keanu walked away, his presence already beginning to fade from the minds of those who remained behind. He moved down the sidewalk with quiet grace, as though he hadn't just shaken the very foundation of the salon. His pace was steady, unhurried, and as he strolled, he spotted a man sitting on the curb, holding a sign that read, "Hungry. Any help appreciated." Keanu paused, his eyes meeting the man's for a brief moment. Without a word, he reached into his wallet, pulling out a generous amount of money. But it wasn't just the money that he gave, he also offered a few words of encouragement, words that seemed to carry more weight than the cash in his hand. The man's face lit up with a smile, a radiant expression of gratitude and relief that seemed to brighten Keanu's own path. Keanu nodded, acknowledging the man's smile before turning back to his walk. He melted into the crowd, disappearing as quietly as he had arrived, leaving behind only the ripple of kindness he had set in motion. Back at the atelier, the new sign gleamed in the sunlight, its gold letters shining brightly, contrasting with the sleek, polished facade of the salon. The message it carried would remain for all who passed by, a quiet reminder of the lesson that had been imparted within those walls. Here, everyone is treated like a celebrity. Keanu's words had left an indelible mark on the salon staff, but more importantly, they had changed the culture of the place. It wasn't about status, wealth, or appearances, it was about character, dignity, and respect. His lessons would echo within the walls of the atelier for a long time, and each client who entered would be treated with the respect they deserved, no matter their background or status. Keanu had shown that true greatness doesn't come from the clothes we wear or the wealth we possess, it comes from how we treat others. The impact of his actions would be felt far beyond the salon, carried with each act of kindness, each gesture of respect that would follow. The story, though small in scale, was a powerful testament to the enduring power of compassion and the lasting change that one person can create. Keanu's quiet humility and sense of responsibility had reminded everyone of the importance of kindness, not just as a momentary gesture, but as a way of life. For those who had witnessed the change, it was a moment to reflect and to grow, knowing that a true measure of success lies not in what we accumulate, but in how we lift others up. If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.